Welcome to the Deeper Thinking podcast. The exodus is happening in real time, a spectacle of irony and contradiction unfolding across screens. Americans, long vocal about government overreach, now search for a digital sanctuary, often one even more entwined with state power than the platform they're leaving behind. As TikTok faces what may be its final days in the United States, its users are not quietly mourning its loss, but instead treating the moment with the same absurdist, self-aware energy that has defined online culture for years. The flight to Xiaohongshu, a platform whose name translates to Little Red Book, an accidental nod to Mao Zedong's ideological text, might have been a plot twist too on the nose for fiction, but there's no political theory in sight. Instead, the new wave of users floods the app with makeup tutorials, cat videos, and memes about their assigned Chinese spies. This is not a geopolitical crisis in the traditional sense. It is something far stranger. A collision of internet culture, political theatre, and global power struggles disguised as an algorithmic disruption. TikTok's disappearance from the American digital landscape has been long in the making. A slow-moving convergence of national security anxieties, economic self-interest, and legal maneuvering. The Trump administration first raised the spectre of banning the app, citing its ties to Beijing as a national security risk. The proposed solution was a forced sale to an American company, Microsoft, then Oracle, both circling like corporate vultures. But the deal never materialized, and the urgency dissipated with the change in administration. The reprieve was short-lived. Congress, in an unusually decisive moment regarding tech policy, revived the effort, passing legislation that effectively gave ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, an ultimatum: divest or face a ban. The Supreme Court, in a ruling that could reshape the way foreign-owned platforms operate in the US for years, rejected arguments about free speech and affirmed the government's authority to regulate digital entities linked to geopolitical rivals. Yet ByteDance refused to sell. Beijing, for its part, made it clear that it would rather see TikTok erased from the US market than surrender its algorithm, the secret ingredient that makes the app so intoxicatingly addictive, so culturally omnipresent, and, some argue, so potentially dangerous. As the deadline looms, the tech and business worlds have entered a strange scramble for what may be one of the most valuable digital properties in existence. Billionaire Frank McCourt, once the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, opposed a purchase backed by private equity firms. More bizarrely, YouTube star Mr. Beast has claimed that billionaires have approached him about assembling a bid, an idea that would have seemed laughable a decade ago, but is now just another sign of how profoundly the digital economy has rearranged power structures. And then there's Elon Musk. Reports suggest that Chinese officials have at least entertained the idea of Musk acquiring TikTok. His extensive business ties to China through Tesla and his demonstrated willingness to accommodate Beijing's interests position him as a unique candidate. Unlike McCourt or an anonymous consortium of investors, Musk is a figure the Chinese government might actually trust to preserve TikTok's core function while presenting an American-friendly face to regulators. For Musk, the acquisition would be a masterstroke. His ambitions for X, his everything app, have yet to materialize, and absorbing TikTok would instantly catapult him into dominance in the short-form video space, an arena where Meta and Google have struggled to compete. The possibility remains unlikely, but the fact that it is even under discussion underscores the way technology, geopolitics, and personal ambition now intersect in unpredictable ways. While politicians and billionaires maneuver behind closed doors, TikTok's users have chosen their own form of resistance: humor. The platform has become a digital wake filled with farewell videos to imaginary Chinese spies. The joke is simple. If the US government believes TikTok is a surveillance tool, then every American user must have their own personal observer in Beijing. Users are tagging their spies, thanking them for years of silent companionship, and even pledging to keep in touch. Others are more pragmatic, working to archive content before the ban takes effect, or exploring VPNs as a means of bypassing US restrictions. But the most surreal phenomenon is the exodus to Xiaohongshu, an app that until now was virtually unknown to Western audiences. Originally dominated by Mandarin language content, Xiaohongshu is now flooded with English-speaking users struggling to navigate an interface they cannot read. Some are documenting the experience as a kind of reverse digital colonialism, exporting the chaotic, fast-paced humor that defined TikTok into a new, unfamiliar space. The irony is hard to ignore. Users fleeing a ban ostensibly enacted for national security reasons are now willingly handing over their data to another Chinese-owned platform. The question of what happens next remains open. Social media platforms, for all their influence, are more fragile than they appear. Vine vanished overnight. MySpace collapsed from cultural ubiquity to irrelevance in a matter of years. Even TikTok itself only rose to prominence after the US banned its predecessor, Musical.ly, leading ByteDance to rebrand and relaunch it under a new name. Whether TikTok's community will seamlessly transfer to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or an entirely new platform remains uncertain. Beneath the immediate spectacle, a deeper battle over digital influence is playing out. The TikTok ban is not just about data security, it is about control over the global attention economy. Platforms that dominate engagement do more than entertain. They shape culture, dictate trends, and influence political discourse. For years, American tech giants like Meta and Google enjoyed an unchallenged monopoly over this landscape. TikTok disrupted that order, not merely competing with US platforms, but in many ways outpacing them in cultural impact. The ban could mark the restoration of American dominance in the digital sphere, but it is unclear whether the users will simply return to the platforms they once abandoned. From Beijing's perspective, the ban is an escalation of an ongoing digital Cold War. For decades, China's Great Firewall has kept certain platforms out, ensuring that its own tech companies could thrive without foreign competition. TikTok was the rare exception, a Chinese platform that infiltrated the heart of the American internet. That moment is now ending, and China may not let it pass without retaliation. US tech giants operating in China, particularly Apple, which depends on Chinese markets and supply chains, could find themselves in Beijing's crosshairs. More broadly, the internet itself is fragmenting. Once envisioned as a borderless, interconnected space, it is now splintering along geopolitical lines. China has its own digital ecosystem, sealed off from the West. Europe is asserting regulatory dominance, imposing stringent data laws that separate its digital landscape from that of the US. Now, America is constructing its own digital barriers, shutting out foreign platforms in the name of security. The era of a single global internet is fading. What replaces it may be a collection of regional internets, each shaped by national interests, rather than by a common user-driven culture. As the countdown to TikTok's ban reaches its final moments, this is no longer just about an app. It is about the end of an era, the last gasp of a digital frontier that once seemed limitless. The internet's unruly, unpredictable energy is being replaced by something more controlled, more segmented, and more dictated by political interests than by technological innovation. Whatever comes next will exist in a world where digital borders are as significant as physical ones. The walls are rising, and those caught between them are left searching for what, if anything, remains on the other side. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Deeper Thinking podcast, an audio essay read by me, Holly, your digital narrator. Until next time.